On Earth, petroleum has been a versatile and abundant source of energy, heat, and light, as well as a vital raw material from which countless essential goods are made. The Nephilim, judging by Sumerian practice and records, made extensive use of petroleum and its derivatives. It stands to reason that in their search for the most suitable habitat on Earth, the Nephilim would prefer a site rich in petroleum. With this in mind, the Nephilim probably placed the Indus Plain in last place, for it is not an area where oil could be found. The Nile Valley was probably given second place. Geologically it lies in a major sedimentary rock zone, but the area's oil is found only at some distance from the valley and requires deep drilling. The land of the two rivers, Mesopotamia, was doubtless put in first place. Some of the world's richest oil fields stretch from the tip of the Persian Gulf to the mountains where the Tigris and Euphrates originate. And while in most places one must drill deep to bring up the crude oil, in ancient Sumer, now southern Iraq, bitumen's, stars, pitches, and asphalts bubbled or lowed up to the surface naturally. Interestingly, the Sumerians had names for all bituminous substances: petroleum, crude oils, native asphalts, rock asphalts, stars, pyrogenic asphalts, mastics, waxes, and pitches. They had 9 different names for the various bitumens. By comparison, the ancient Egyptian language had only 2, and Sanskrit only 3. The book of Genesis describes God's abode on earth, Eden, as a place of temperate climate, warm yet breezy, for God took afternoon strolls to catch the cooling breeze. It was a place of good soil, lending itself to agriculture and horticulture, especially the cultivation of orchards. It was a place that drew its waters from a network of 4 rivers. And the name of the third river was hypothetical Tigris. It is the one which flowed towards the east of Assyria, and the fourth was the Euphrates. While opinions regarding the identity of the first 2 rivers, Pishon abundant and Gihon which gushes forth, are inconclusive, there is no uncertainty regarding the other 2 rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Some scholars locate Eden in northern Mesopotamia, where the 2 rivers and 2 lesser tributaries originate. Others, such as E.A. Spicer, in the rivers of paradise, believe that the 4 streams converge at the head of the Persian Gulf, so that Eden was not in northern, but in southern Mesopotamia. The biblical name Eden is of Mesopotamian origin, stemming from the Akkadian et Inu, meaning plain. We recall that the divine title of the ancient gods was Dengir, the righteous/just ones of the rockets. A Sumerian name for the gods' abode, Eden, would have meant home of the righteous ones, a fitting description. The selection of Mesopotamia as the home on earth was probably motivated by at least one other important consideration. Though the Nephilim in time established a spaceport on dry land, some evidence suggests that at least initially they landed by splashing down into the sea in a hermetically sealed capsule. If this was the landing method, Mesopotamia offered proximity to not 1, but 2 seas, the Indian Ocean to the south, and the Mediterranean to the west, so that in case of an emergency, the landing did not have to depend on one watery site alone. As we shall see, a good bay or gulf from which long sea voyages could be launched was also essential. In ancient texts and pictures, the craft of the Nephilim were initially termed celestial boats. The landing of such maritime astronauts, one can imagine, might have been described in ancient epic tales as the appearance of some kind of submarine from the heavens in the sea, from which fishmen emerged and came ashore. The texts do, in fact, mention that some of the Abigail who navigated the spaceships were dressed as fish. One text dealing with Ishtar's divine journeys quotes her as seeking to reach the great Galu chief navigator who had gone away in a sunken boat. Berosus transmitted legends regarding Owens, the being endowed with reason, a god who made his appearance from the Erythraean Sea which bordered on Babylonia in the first year of the descent of kingship from heaven. Berosus reported that, though Owens looked like a fish, he had a human head under the fish's head and had feet, like a man, under the fish's tail. His voice too and language were articulate and human. The 3 Greek historians through whom we know what Berosus wrote, reported that such divine fishmen appeared periodically, coming ashore from the Erythraean Sea, the body of water we now call the Arabian Sea, the western part of the Indian Ocean. Why would the Nephilim splash down in the Indian Ocean, hundreds of miles from their selected site in Mesopotamia, instead of in the Persian Gulf, which is so much closer? The ancient reports indirectly confirm our conclusion that the first landings occurred during the Second Glacial Period, when today's Persian Gulf was not a sea, but a stretch of marshlands and shallow lakes, in which a splashdown was impossible. Coming down in the Arabian Sea, the first intelligent beings on Earth then made their way toward Mesopotamia. The marshlands extended deeper inland and today's coastline. There, at the edge of the marshes, they established their very first settlement on our planet. They named it Eridu House and Faraway Built. What an appropriate name! To this very day, the Persian term Wardi means encampment. It is a word whose meaning has taken root in all languages. The settled earth is called Urdi in German, Urdu in Old High German, Jordan Icelandic, Jordan Danish, Ida in Gothic, Ert in Middle English, and going back geographically and in time, Earth was Araha or Earth in Aramaic, Ert or Earth in Kurdish, and Eretz in Hebrew. At Eridu, in southern Mesopotamia, the Nephilim established Earth, Station I, a lonely outpost on a half-frozen planet. Sumerian text, confirmed by later Akkadian translations, list the original settlements or cities of the Nephilim, in the order in which they were established. We are even told which god was put in charge of each of these settlements. A Sumerian text, believed to have been the original of the Akkadian deluge tablets, relates the following regarding 5 of the first 7 cities after kingship had been lowered from heaven. After the exalted crown, the throne of kingship had been lowered from heaven. He perfected the procedures, the divine ordinances, founded 5 cities in pure places, called their names, laid them out as centers. The first of these cities, Eridu, he gave to Nudimmud, the leader. The second, Bad-Tibiru, he gave to Nujig. The third, Larak, he gave to Tabilsag. The fourth, Sipper, he gave to the hero Utu. The fifth, Shurapak, he gave to Sud. The name of the god who lowered kingship from heaven, planned the establishment of Eridu and 4 other cities, and appointed their governors or commanders, is unfortunately obliterated. All the texts agree, however, that the god who waded ashore to the edge of the marshlands and said here we settle was Enki, nicknamed Nudimmud, he who made things in the text. This god's 2 names, Enki, lord of firm ground, and Ea, whose houses water were most appropriate. Eridu, which remained Enki's seat of power and center of worship throughout Mesopotamian history, was built on ground artificially raised above the waters of the marshlands. The evidence is contained in a text named by Sen Kramer, the myth of Enki, and Eridu, the lord of the watery deep, the king Enki, built his house. In Eridu he built the house of the water bank. The king Enki has built a house Eridu, like a mountain, he raised up from the earth, in a good place he had built it. These and other, mostly fragmentary texts suggest that one of the first concerns of these colonists on earth had to do with the shallow lakes, or watery marshes. He established the cleaning of the small rivers. The effort to dredge the beds of streams and tributaries to allow a better flow of the waters was intended to drain the marshes, obtain cleaner, potable water, and implement controlled irrigation. The Sumerian narrative also indicates some land filling, or the raising of dikes to protect the first houses from the omnipresent waters. A text named by scholars the myth of Enki and the land's order is one of the longest and best preserved of Sumerian narrative poems so far uncovered. Its text consists of some 470 lines, of which 375 are perfectly legible. Its beginning, some 50 lines, is, unfortunately, broken. The verses that follow are devoted to an exaltation of Enki, and to the establishment of his relationship with the chief deity Anu his father, Ninti his sister, and Enlil his brother. Following these introductions, Enki himself picks up the microphone. As fantastic as it may sound, the fact is that the text amounts to a first-person report by Enki of his landing on Earth. When I approached Earth, there was much flooding. When I approached its green meadows, heaps and mounds were piled up at my command. I built my house in a pure place. My house, its shade stretches over the snake marsh. The carp fish wave their tails in it. Among the small giz reeds, The poem then goes on to describe and record, in the third person, the achievements of Enki,